Well, hello everybody. Welcome back for another episode of Simply History. This is your host, Mr. Robbins, back again, still learning a little bit more every day about how to do this. So, I'm trying a new configuration. I noticed with my last episode going live or doing a live recording that the microphone still isn't where I want it to be. So, trying it out again today. We'll see how it goes. Again, it's going to be another short episode. My plan is to make the content for my history classes by mid July. Either way, either I'm going to be doing it like this, or I'll have one of my characters with the information do it. Right now, that seems to be the most engaging. There's stuff to look at, there's lots of things going on. The sound is better. So we'll see. We'll see where we go. Just again, a quick check in. This morning we had a nice 4th of July weekend. Uh, Lots of stuff going on in the world. So, just checking out the stock market this morning, looking at the Dow Jones, and still doing great. Still rocketing up. Another day of hitting the top. It's come down a little bit this morning, but still rocking it, man. Still almost hitting new all-time highs every day. It's crazy. We'll see how long that lasts. Bitcoin, on the other hand, still not doing as strong. It's just kind of hanging out in the low 60,000s. Last week, I think it was last week, we dipped down to as low as 57,000, which is a cycle low for this cycle. Again, there's a 4-year cycle that folks in Bitcoin talk about. The charts following. We'll see how it goes. But so far, it looks like it's making a little bit of a recovery today. As always, though, I always think it's a great time to buy. All right, let's see what's going on in the world. Over the weekend, there was the funeral for the Supreme Leader Khamenei. He was killed in the Iranian conflict. I believe it was the first week of fighting back in February, end of February. They're finally getting around to having his funeral, and it's interesting that they planned the funeral on the same weekend as the 4th of July celebration in America. They are no fans of America over in Iran. It seems to be a great propaganda tool, though, this celebration for the life of their supreme leader, Ali Khamenei. So here's a bunch of people coming in from all over the region, from what it sounds like, all over Iran, different regions within Iran, and it's not just the funeral for the supreme leader. There was quite a few people that were killed, as far as I have been able to read. I think down here they talk about it. It was yeah, on the 28th he was killed along with his daughter, his son-in-law, his daughter-in-law, and his 14-month-old granddaughter. So all of their bodies are also being laid to rest today. What's interesting is that his son has been named the new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khomeini. I believe I'm saying that right. But so far, he hasn't been seen in public. He hasn't even made an appearance at this funeral, which is very interesting. Again, the supreme leader of Iran's got like total military, political, religious power. It's the highest position in the country, and he hasn't been seen since his father's death, and honestly, since the death of his family. That's who Khomeini's daughter-in-law and 14-month-old granddaughter. That was his son's wife and daughter. So they were killed. He was severely injured, but so far he has not been seen in public. There have been messages that were given to authorities in order to give to the people, but so far he has not been seen in public, which leads a lot of people to speculate: is he really alive? Is he now become this? If anybody's ever read 1984, there's the idea of Big Brother, and Big Brother is really just pictures and propaganda. He's not really a person that ever comes out and speaks to people or makes public appearances. And leads you to wonder: is does he even exist? Is he even a real person, or is he just a picture? That's kind of the vibe I'm getting from the new Khomeini in Iran. He doesn't show up, no public events. lots of pictures, lots of messages from him. So just interesting. That's one thing that I'm watching to see how that develops. Very interesting. Another big thing that's going on this week is NATO is having a gathering, a summit, a meeting. Those of you that were in my modern world history class would remember NATO was the alliance that was formed during the Cold War in Europe as kind of a countermeasure against the Soviet Union. It was really designed to keep the Soviet Union from expanding into Europe, and it's a collection of a bunch of different countries. In fact, I was prepared today, and I have Google Earth all set up. So over here in Europe, right over here is Russia. Look at that. That's a big old giant country. All this territory is Russia. Basically, NATO is all the Western European countries, all the way up to Belarus, I think. I don't think Belarus, Ukraine, these two are not members of NATO, but everybody else is. Poland, Romania, Finland, Sweden, Slovakia, Serbia, Bulgaria, all of these countries are part of NATO. And if you know, with the visual here, you can see it's like a wall to stop the expansion of the Soviet Union. Well, the Soviet Union's gone. Soviet Union fell when I was a kid back in the 90s. So now it's just Russia, but NATO is still around. NATO still acts as a peacekeeping force in the region. All these different countries help each other out. They're also working to counter terrorism, sharing information if there's any kind of hacking or cyber threats going on, and just basically maintaining peace in the region. All throughout the first couple thousand years over in here after the fall of the Roman Empire, there was just wars after wars between everybody over here. So relative peace, and then America is also thrown in there. I think Canada might be a member, but America is the non-European kind of the big dog. We got a lot of money, got a lot of military power, and we give it to NATO. And the idea behind all these countries being in NATO is if you attack one of these countries, you attack all of these countries. You know, that's the typical alliance, but the idea was if the Soviet Union invaded Slovakia, then all of these guys would come and aid Slovakia. Now it's, like I said, all those other reasons, but Russia, or at least Vladimir Putin, is making the case that NATO is basically creating territory next to its territory to launch an invasion and maybe take territory away from Russia in the future. There's never been a case really strongly made for that as far as an agenda of NATO, but that's what Vladimir Putin is saying. So a lot of the trouble that's going on with Ukraine and Russia is the idea that Ukraine asked to join NATO or NATO asked Ukraine to join. I think there was even something about President Joe Biden back in his term saying that he wanted Ukraine to come into NATO. All of that, and probably other reasons, I'm sure, but that was one of the big ones that Putin made the case that Russia should control this territory. So the fighting is still happening in Ukraine. There's no plan, as far as I know, for Ukraine to join NATO, but we'll see what happens. The meeting is happening this week, which is going to be interesting because our current president, Donald Trump, is not a fan of NATO. Not necessarily what they stand for, but he's not a fan of America being a part of it. He's made the case since before he was elected president that we give a large amount of money and we don't see a return on our investment. That's the case that he makes, that, what's the point of us being in NATO because, everything is in Europe. Russia's nowhere near us. We don't have anything to worry about. However, the counter to that would be, according to NATO, an attack on one member is an attack on all. And there's only been one time that that has ever been invoked, that one member has been attacked and all the other members come to their aid. And that was 9/11, when America was attacked. We called on that provision, and the rest of NATO came to our aid. So there's that counter argument. So it sounds like this summit that's going off this week. Yeah, it looks like it launches tomorrow, July 7th. Uh, One of the big agendas, it sounds like, is for the Secretary General, the guy that's in charge of NATO. It's kind of like an elected position, if I remember correctly. People take turns being in charge of NATO from different parts of the region. And so the current Secretary General is going to spend a lot of time trying to, they say, make the case for NATO. Basically, to convince Donald Trump that this is a great investment. This is what I like is that the strategy, here we go, quote from this article. This is from DW.com. The strategy is to keep the alliance together by flattering Trump and emphasizing the benefits of NATO. Basically, flattering Trump, saying thank you so much for everything you do, thank you for all the money, oh my gosh, you're the greatest president. That seems to be a way to get into his good favor by giving him a lot of flattery, saying how much he's done for the alliance. So that's going to be interesting. So that meeting is kicking off tomorrow. We'll see how that goes. And just before this meeting is about to go down, Russia has attacked Ukraine. Kiev is the capital of Ukraine. You can see these explosions happening, and Russia's getting crazy with their attacks because it's more and more civilian attacks, not military compounds, not industrial compounds where they might make munitions and weapons and all that stuff. It's literally apartment complexes, hospitals, schools, which I mean, as much as we want to talk about rules of war, that violates the rules of war that kind of everybody agrees on, that civilian targets are war crimes. But we'll see if anybody is able to prosecute that. So we've got attacks happening on Kiev just before the NATO summit. The summit is happening in Turkey. So if we look over here, here's Kiev, right next to Russia. So it's an easy target right there in Russia. It's almost close to the border. But these talks are going to be happening down here in Turkey, this region right here. There we go, Turkey. I guess we're pronouncing it differently right now, or it's always been pronounced a certain way, but I think the world is trying to go back to its original pronunciation, which I'm not really sure if I have it down right. Turkey. I've called it Turkey my whole life, so I'm going to have to get used to that one. Anyway, this will be where the meeting is held right here in Turkey. Turkey's interesting because this was the Ottoman Empire originally, so it's kind of the last. Well, not the last. It's the region that used to be the last Arab empire. So it's a member of NATO, and it's right there on the Middle East. So it almost acts as a buffer from Middle East invasion of Syria or Iraq, which is, if in the past when it was an enemy, if it had made any attacks on Turkey to try to get into Europe, then all of NATO would come down on them. So interesting alliance with a lot of rich history there. So anyway, that's the big stuff that's happening right now in the world, in the news, as far as I've been able to see. And I think I'm just going to end it there. This has been just again another test to see how this microphone is working, and I will make my decisions on how I'm going to go forward based off of how this turns out. So if there's anything that you notice that I got a mistake on, please leave that in the comments section. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down there as well. Click like and subscribe. I gotta remember, I gotta say that every one of these. Like and subscribe the channel if you enjoyed this, and I will definitely be talking to everybody soon. I hope everybody's having a great week and had a nice 4th of July, and yeah, talk to you later.